stories where we let the box cool off a little bit there.
So you can sit. You want to sit there? Are you okay?
I had mentioned about the big fire. For those of you who were on, did everybody hear about the big fire? It burned the place down? Okay. Well, Charlie Knoll, the guy that had the huge store, rebuilt right over there on the left. And his home was the brick home here on the corner. Very ostentatious home here. Very nice.
Oh yeah, the red light.
And next door to it was where he had his bank and his business. And it goes on down the block there. You can see just part of the building. It's now a water care store. But he had that whole area there. And that's where he rebuilt.
Thank you.
There's the story about the building right next to us here on the left, or on the east side of the street, is known as the Halbach Brothers building. And the origins of that go back into the 1870s. And a guy named Henry Halbach bought the corner from a guy named John Hopper, who had the next building back in, a black part of what was it? We worked with horses and saddles and buggies and all that sort of thing. And anyway, he sold that corner off to Henry. And he built this little place there, and he made it into a hotel. It's called a Wisconsin House. Most people don't know that, but that was called a Wisconsin House. And he would take in the newcomers. Oh, they had other designs too. These were entrepreneurial people. And they decided that, well, why don't we make a little 12 by 12 section of this into a little millinery store here, and we'll sell women's hats. Well, that became another part of another operation, and pretty soon they were selling other things out of there and expanded it. Then they shut down the hotel and turned it into more or less of what you know as a mercantile store today, or had more than hardware in it. It had a bunch of other things. And then he added on to the back of it, and gradually it just got to be a pretty good size operation for the Halbachs. Well, when the fire came through and stopped at the corner, they decided that this might be a good time to rebuild this building from scratch. So they tore that one down and they built the building that's there now. And that's a pretty good sized building, and added on a section to the back later on. But they had all sorts of things in there. And they got into selling creamery and products, dairy products, eggs, you name it.
Oh,
Hi. So they got into selling all sorts of things in that building. Well, he also took in a couple of investors because it got big and he needed more inventory. So the investors came in and gave him the money for the extra inventory. Hi, Kevin here.
Hi, Gary.
All right, we're over at Halbach Brothers store. All right, we're all settled on. Now we're at the Halbach Brothers store, and how that evolved. So in 1898, when they rebuilt it, the new investors came in and gave them some money so they could expand their inventory. But by this time, Henry had brought in his two sons, and they were interested in other things, farm animals, like chickens and Holsteins. And eventually, make a long story short, the boys felt that they wanted to pursue those interests instead, because they were developing, one of the boys was developing a line of Plymouth White Rock chickens, and they were taking the prizes at the fairs, and it was becoming famous. And the other guy was developing Holsteins, and he was making the prizes at the fairs, and he's becoming famous. But they would rather put more time into that farm business, or farm animal business, than that. So they sold it off to Sheely, got one of his partners, and they pursued it. So the Halbach brothers made Waterford famous for chickens. Plymouth White Rock chickens. They were sending these things all over the world. So while Waterford, Ireland became known for its crystal, Waterford became known for its chickens.
Can't last long as well.
That's it. And then the chicken things lasted here till Harry Halbach, who recently passed about a year or so ago, and he was the last of the group to work the chicken business. And it was over on the east side of town. That's where they had the chicken farms.
Thanks, Sam.
You bet.
Crystal here?
No, there's no Waterford crystal here. But they salvaged a lot of rocks out of the river in order to make a lot of homes. Gotta say that. All the old stone homes around here were made from local rock. And the cement was made locally from the lime. So there's only a few remnants of them left in the village. And the store right next door to Marty's Diamond Restaurant is one of those old stone buildings. The Fred Wegge house right across the street where Envy Salon is also a stone building, but it's stuccoed on the outside now. But originally, now that we're at the beginning of the tour here, I'll reintroduce myself.
We meant it's not the middle of that window, just the middle.
Turn that thing and push up.
There you go.
They're not exits, but you can't get air on them. Right?
You know you're talking too much. They're rubbing on the windows.
Yeah. Okay, this is where we normally start the tour, and I'll fill you in on the beginnings of Waterford. And as Sam Chapman, we started out in New York, up in the Albany area, and I was an attorney. And as an attorney, I was looking for new opportunities, and my father-in-law, Levi Barnes, was 62 years old and still not satisfied, so we decided to head out west to this new area they're calling the Territory of Wisconsin. See if there's some new opportunities over there. We heard that there was a lot of land value there. There wasn't much land value in New York by then. It was all occupied, and it was selling for prices that were unaffordable for the average guy. And they thought, well, let's go head out west. So we headed up through Lockport, Indiana, dropped our wives off there with some friends, spent a little time there, and continued on east, or west, through this little town of Chicago. And by the way, Chicago was a small town at that time. It did not grow until the railroads came through. And it's very important. The railroads determined where the villages sprouted. Just a sidelight from that had happened right here. Rochester, East Troy, various, Honey Creek, a lot of these little towns around the area were betting on railroads coming through their territory, and they didn't. They ended up coming through here on the east side of Waterford, and Waterford flourished. So those other places kind of died off. So anyway, we came over here and we ended up, we went up through Chicago, worked north to Southport, which is now called Kenosha for some reason. And then we ended up in this nice little community called Racine, which is was one of the 5 largest villages on Lake Michigan. And got to talking to people there, and he says, you know, you ought to take a look out west of town here, about maybe 20 miles or so, about a day's ride, and see what you see out there. It looks pretty interesting from what we hear. You got to put up with the Indians, but it's, you know, it's territory. Go take a look. So early the next morning, we get on our horses and packed up our provisions, and away we went. Followed the Indian trails west, and that's in those days you followed the Indian trails. Indian trails were the roads. That's where you went. And most of the roads today that wander around here were Indian trails.
They're coming back.
At one time, yeah, they paved them. So we end up over here by the river, bedded down for the night, and by God, we got up in the morning, and the thieving Indians had taken the red bandanas off of our heads, and Levi jumps up and he says, "Hallelujah, Lord, this is our home. It's a sign from God." And they stayed. They stayed here. That was it. Sign from God. Well, anyway, they hung around for a few days here looking around, and he said, "Yep, this is the spot." They went back and they went through Milwaukee, and they hired a lawyer over there, Eliphalet Kramer, and he filed all of the claims. So you had to stake a claim back then. And the staking of a claim was, you had to actually visit the territory, or the area that you wanted, and you had to mark it with some marking of some sort, visible markings, and you had to put a substantial structure on it, and you had to live there for, I believe, 5 years, and then you could buy it for about $1.25 an acre. And then it was your land, whatever you stepped off. In the early days of the territory, you had to accept parcels like 320 acres. Well, that's a fair bit of money, at $1.25 an acre. But then it wasn't long after that they started cutting it down, and you could buy it for 160 acres, and they reduced that to 80 acres and then 40 acres. Pretty much where it ended up. By that time, people were in here and they were sucking up all the land that was around in the whole township. But this was the township of Rochester in the beginning. Waterford was in the town of Rochester. And then we put together about 20 substantial citizens in the area, and we petitioned the territorial legislature, of which I was a member, and we got our own township, the township of Waterford, in 1847. Hey. So when we got the wifes back here, we built a 3-room log cabin up over the hill. 3-room log cabin. Okay, now we're going to raise 8 children in there, and we're going to take on all the newcomers that come into town. You got to have a place to stay. Everybody was friendly. There was always a door open. People would put people up, you know, friends, not even friends. They needed a place to stay for a day or two or whatever to get on their feet, and everybody was willing to help everybody out. It was really great to have that kind of camaraderie in building a new village, a new town. Everybody was in the same boat, right? Misery loves company. Yeah, that the building on the left that's back there, the NB Salon, as you know, is what I call Fred Wakey's building, and that's one of the oldest structures in town, built in the 1850s. So it's a rather old, it was stone, but it is now stuccoed on the outside. And on the corner here was where I had my office, and my daughter Imogene had a millinery shop downstairs. My office was upstairs, held court up there, and my office was upstairs. But it was a stone building, much like the building that was next to Marty's Diamond. A little narrower, 2-story offices upstairs. And it stayed that as a commercial building until they widened the road out and destroyed it, and put that little wooden building over there. Now, on the left here, the first building is Bert Fote's building, as it's known. There's a marker in the wall here, it says B.G. Fote. Stands for Bert Fote. He was a character around town. He was a barber. And he used to have a barber shop on the other side of the bridge, but he built this building, and it was in 1897, a year before the big fire. July 2nd, 1898, a fire started just around the corner to the left in Louis Knoll's store, and it happened. Anybody heard the story yet? You want to hear? Okay.
Let's get off anyhow.
Okay. Well, at Louis Knoll's store, there was a lot of competition for business, and Louis was one of those guys that aimed to please his customers. So, at 8:30 at night, the customer comes over, he wants, you mentioned it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, sure. So, back to our story here about the fire, the Great Fire of 1898. So, Louis goes downstairs with his kerosene lantern looking for some gasoline. And don't get ahead of me here, but an explosion ensues. He scrambles to get out of there. He knocks off the petcock off of the wooden barrel that's holding the gasoline. Gasoline comes out. Of course, what happens then? That's going everywhere. Flames going like crazy. The building is engulfed in flames. He gets out, and then now there's, to help the situation, it's windy. There's a nice wind outside. So the wind stokes this up a little bit, moves it to the north, moves it to the south side on that same side of the street, jumps across the river to his brother's place, Trolley Ride. And Trolley Ride had one of the biggest structures around here. A 5-story wooden building that had everything in it. He was an entrepreneur. This guy, I would say everything from a saloon to a morgue. He had a dance hall. He had the morgue. He had a saloon, an ice cream parlor. What else? I don't know. The number one things like that. Anyway, it caught on fire, burns down, and then it burns north, and it catches the Courtnick building on fire. And that was another unique establishment. It's where Lowe's was here. And that's Courtnick's. He had a combination business. He had a tavern and an ice cream store. Kind of interesting. So Dad gets to go have a beer, while Mom and the kids get to go next door and have a phosphor. But it burned this whole area up. Took it all the way down Elizabeth Street, down here to 2nd Street, Main Street, that side of Main Street over there, all the way up to Bert Folt's building. Bert Folt's building was the only one that survived it. It was a new building, it was made out of brick, so it survived the heat, and it had a substantial roof on it, so it didn't catch fire. And the only little story that came out of it, as I understand, there weren't any fatalities in it. Everybody managed to escape. But Elder Hubbard was working on the bucket brigade over there, working between the buildings, between Nelson Palmer's building and Bert Folt's, and a piece of the cornice come down. It was on fire, caught him on fire, and he takes off out of there with his clothes on fire and jumps in the river to put the clothes up, put his fire out. I'm sure he had some blisters after that one, but he managed to save his life anyway. That was the only near miss of the whole thing. Well, they quickly rebuilt the downtown area, and it was indeed, you know, where were you going to go to find other things? So you built your business back up. But before they built the businesses, they took this whole area down here from like about 2nd Street to the river, and they redid the elevation. They hauled in. I just can't imagine.
Yeah. Everybody keep warm.
We're bringing hot chocolate back for everybody.
Bye, see you later.
Bye, Chris.
Bye, see you later.
See ya.
There you go. I'll figure it out. Let them go together. Go. Oh. Thank you. Very nice. I'm feeling sweaty. Well, okay. Yeah. You know what? I do get sweaty, like, if I wear boots and stuff.
Well, I'm wearing boots.
Yep, I do.
But like yesterday in my mom's,
Who's got your feet up?
my mom's business.
You got brand new boots.
Your feet slow?
Oh.
Well, you're wearing winter boots and stuff. You don't even have to. Oh, gym shoes. Yours that I wore to Steve? Oh, yeah. Technically, those are gym shoes, so. Alright, where are we off to now? I thought we said we were getting.
Who do you think my keys went?
Going to the chiropractor. Alright, where are the snacks?
Would that be funny?
I don't know. We'll see. Mr. Corby's really good at that. Where are the snacks? I don't know.
Yeah, the chiropractor usually has very good snacks. As a matter of fact, Libby and I went to the chiropractor last. Oh. And they had, last. And believe me, we wish we had gone there first.
Is that
The chiropractor, we closed the chiropractor. They had food out.
more over there. They go to the dentist more over there.
So I'm trying to figure out what that lady's name was.
Oh, I know. Aren't you kidding? That kill you?
I think it's Mary Beth. She used to be the director of
She looked familiar to me.
Community Foundation.
Okay. The library.
I'm pretty sure that's her.
I don't remember.
And she was involved with absolutely Waterford.
She's not involved in it since we've been involved at the library, the Racine Community Foundation.
No,
It was somebody else.
3 years ago. Oh, Racine Community Foundation? Yeah, it's in the new director.
It's a nice way to spend an evening.
It is.
Oh, I saw that. They went up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
big.
So we're making it very
I don't know who you're talking about. Is that good or bad? Hello.
But everything is starting a little by little.
Yeah, so we just got off the trolley, which is like 100 degrees. I know, I texted her.
She has multiple copies of it.
I don't know.
Hey, what'd you guys do? Oh, I got it. I was like, where did the recorder thing go? Isn't that funny? I'm like, I thought I lost it already.
Good food.
I was like, you walk in and you can smell it. It smells like delicious.
She puts on a good game here.
That's what I said to Libby. The last time we did this, unfortunately, this was our last stop. And we said, oh, man. And it was like, we closed it down at like 9 o'clock at night. They were like shoving us out. And I was like, we should have been here first. This is where we should have had dinner. I am.
I remember you.
Yeah. How are you?
I knew your mom from Intermatic.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You know what?
And I'm married to Brian, and yeah.
That's so funny.
Isn't that funny? I worked with your mom in Intermatic.
Yeah, we knew that. We've had that conversation before. That, like a whole lifetime ago, right?
It was a really long time ago.
I know. Yeah, she's been gone 7 years now. So, that's good. So,
I saw it.
kept up with you on Facebook.
Yeah, a little bit.
You guys are going to be having.
It was like long after.
I know.
Come on, Daddy.
That's what happens.
I hate when that happens.
It's like I'll see something or I'll go somewhere and then you're like, oh man, when did that happen?
Winter may not be the best time.
I hated that I didn't know. But I knew.
Well, I know. It's so weird. One of my dad's caregivers came in one day, and I started talking to her, and it was the granddaughter of her best friend.
Oh my God.
I know. And I'm like, she's like, I knew this house. I remember. And I was like, oh my
Small doses.
That's amazing.
It would have to be a short.
She was a great lady. She was really good to me.
I miss her. She did have, a soft spot for just,
She did. I was a very lost person then. That was her soft spot. She knew I was. That's when I got pregnant with my daughter, and unexpectedly. And I was only 20, and she really, she just took me under her wing, kind of. She did. She was great to talk to.
That's a great story. Here's Nana. She's talking about. Yep.
Hopefully since then you figured out how that happened.
I know, yeah.
Unexpectedly.
Did she? I know. Did she? Yeah, she clued you into the details, right?
That's what I liked about her too. She would just
tells
say
you how
it
like
was.
it is.
That's why what drew me to it.
Yeah.
I like people like that. No,
Yeah. You knew.
no guessing.
You knew where she
just
stood.
knew where she stood. I like that.
You're right. You're right.
She was a little bit like my stepmom.
Oh gosh.
Not a lot, a little. Where she just would tell you how she felt.
We always call it, oh, I went Dorothy, or, like the joke is, or it's like, oh yeah, that was Dorothy.
Yes.
Like, even people who don't even know my mom, they're like, so what you just said is something Dorothy would say.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, pretty much so. Yep, that's the way it is. I know, exactly.
Either this or this, just figure it out and deal with it.
Right. Yep.
She's right. She was right most of the time.
Oh,
A lot of times people don't like to hear what's right.
yeah, I didn't think so at the time.
I
either,
know,
so.
I know.
That's for sure.
Well, daughters
Things that she
never want to
said,
think that.
all the things that she
My
said
parents were wrong
that
all
were
the
going to
time.
happen,
Trust me.
almost all of them did. I wish I could just tell her.
How would she know?
I know. She just
because
knew.
She's
I know.
like an innocent person.
Yep.
I
know.
mean, I have
I
no
know.
clue how she would know anything. I mean, she came from total innocent.
Yeah, I know.
Catholic schoolgirl. So it's like, how would you know anything?
Oh,
Yeah, so those are the ones, right? Those are the ones that really know. I know all the stuff she probably didn't tell me.
I know, I'm sure.
Yeah, which I say I'm not telling my daughter either, So I certainly know no Catholic
Those people,
school.
when I'm gone and in heaven, I'm going to look her up.
Aw, thanks. Gosh, that makes me feel so good.
She was
I wish you
awesome.
could talk to my sister. 'Cause, I get to see her tomorrow for the first time in 4 years.
Cheryl?
Yeah, she just doesn't have those
She was a year ahead of me in school.
memories, so it's gonna be a hard week. Yeah.
Oh, no, really?
Seen it for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah. It's gonna be, it'll be kind of.
I'm glad you're
I'm
seeing her.
hoping she'll, get those saying those things to herself. So
That's a little stressful.
yeah, I know it's okay. It's
Been
good.
that long since
you
you've
know?
seen your brother,
Yeah.
at least.
It's all right. It's just listening to you. I feel like I wish,
You're right.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Right.
She did the best she could.
That's all you can do is let it go.
Yeah. So it's
choice.
like
My mom is
it's like I just wish she
now.
could hear you. My sister.
Yeah.
Give
her my number, she can call.
Yeah, and then she'd probably say, "Well, how come I couldn't get a piece of that?" So you're like, you know what? Whatever.
I think your brother has said that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
I didn't see that side of my parents.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you weren't looking.
Yeah.
No, right? Exactly. You're looking too hard. So.
You were too much of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I tell them.
Thank you.
What's up, honey?
Over the world
You
travelers.
made my night. Thank you very much. Honestly.
It was really nice seeing you, running into you.
It's nice to
Thank
run
you.
Before I forget, I'll tell you only once a week.
It's 100 degrees in here, isn't it? Are you still worried about being cold?
It was 100 degrees. 100 degrees. Yeah, 100 degrees warmer than in here. I was worried about yes, all pictures. What happens in May stays in Green Bay.
You know what I thought I'd do would be kind of cool?
Everyone wants a library, stinks and books. To me, I'm like,
This thing still. Oh, still recording.